Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to the PHNX Rising Podcast. It's your boy, Max Simpson, joining you on a very happy Tuesday. I'm joined by a man who is very bad at sports, Mr. Owain Evans. How we doing?
What?
Owen, I don't know if you have a short memory, but we played a little foosball, fancy
and you
foosball,
almost collapsed.
and you lost.
You were ahead by a long way, and then suddenly it was a game again.
But you're saying that you lost, that I didn't collapse completely.
It was very close in the end.
So you're saying you lost? I want to hear the words.
Very close.
Okay, he knows what happened.
I was, much as you tend to do on the table, knocking on the door.
No. Okay. Anyway, he knows what happened. The viewer, you guys already know what happened, even if you weren't there. But appreciate you guys joining us today on a nice Tuesday to recap Owen, what would you describe that performance on Friday night?
Bad.
Anything else?
Bad. It was bad.
It was very bad. Rising's no loss to Las Vegas Lights was a toughie, to say the least. You know, Owen, I know we were pretty animated during the post-game show and kind of despondent at the same time after having a bit more time to kind of digest everything. Was the performance, has it gotten worse or it stayed the same in your mind?
It was bad.
It was bad.
It was bad.
It was bad.
It was bad on the day.
Yeah.
It's bad now.
It was. It is.
Bad.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. Look, I don't think there's anything really in terms of was it better or worse? I think we immediately recognized what we were seeing in front of us and that it was not good. Yeah. And Juan said as much in the post game. We said as much on our post game show. We're gonna say as much today when we talk about it. I think it was just all around a pretty pitiful performance that did exacerbate some of the issues that we've seen already this season in PHNX Rising, and we will delve into that a little bit. Mm-hmm. But it was rough. It was a really, really rough game, and not much else really to say about it, I suppose, until we get into the real details.
I mean, I think the part that I know we shouted out a lot on Friday, and really it was hammered home a bit further throughout the show. We kind of thought about it today. It really seemed like it was the same trends and the same types of poor performances that we've been seeing from Rising. And I mean, I guess you're not finding new ways to lose or new ways to put in bad performances, but the fact that this team, for whatever reason, it seems to not get out of their own way at times from an attacking perspective, really just continues to rear its head.
And there's an element of stubbornness in it at times. Mm-hmm. And it comes from... We know they're a big possession-based side. We know they're not going to change. I'm not expecting them to change the underlying philosophy ever. I don't expect that at all. And you shouldn't. I get that. But it feels as though at times there are certain things that just aren't working and they persist with them. I did think we saw a bit of a change in this last game. The problem is that change really, really didn't work. And should we start talking about that maybe a little bit? There's one of the things that went wrong. So let's talk a little bit about just the way that they set up, particularly the way that they set up on that left-hand side. Mm-hmm. Now, it was a little bit more fluid maybe than we've seen in the past. And yet, I think what it kind of led to in the end was an overcomplication of that left-hand side. Mm-hmm. And maybe a little bit of confusion. I'm not sure entirely on that one, but it was, I think the easiest way to describe it is just overthinking. I think it was an attempt to do something that didn't really necessarily need fixing in that moment and that could have been approached in more of the way that Rising have approached things this season rather than what felt like at times a way perhaps to stuff certain players out on the field together, but as a result it would have to be looking slightly differently in the way that they lined up while they were out there.
Yeah, it's kind of the case of, you're trying to put your best 11 out there, and often, we think the best 11 is going to be the best 11 players who work the best together, maybe not necessarily the best 11 in terms of, call it talent or skill or whatever that attribute is of hey, these are our most skilled players, whatever. You need to put people in the right positions to succeed. And kind of what we're referring to, right? It's the fact that on the right-hand side, the opposite side, you see a traditional setup, right, of how Rising likes to use their wingbacks, how they like to utilize the outside. Eddie Majoma very much pushed out on the right side, creating that width. They tried to find him from time to time. The corner balls just weren't quite falling, but that was a standard attacking approach. Nothing really out of the ordinary that Rising has seen. The left-hand side that you're referring to is something it was a bit... it was different, right? I mean, you have Danny Trejo as technically that guy who was out there, but instead of him going wide, you essentially had him playing off of Manuel Arteaga's shoulder to where you have him in the half space, almost as in a dueling number 10 role, and just not providing any real width on that side. So instead of keeping
some ways, yes.
Yeah, but instead of keeping the defense balanced with two wingbacks going wide, you really are saying we're only really going to play super wide on the right-hand side and kind of just overload the midfield and that attacking half with too many people.
I think one thing that kind of illustrates, I think, one of the issues that we saw with the way that they set up on that left-hand side is a really good example of it. If you look at Fede Varela's touch map, I mean, if you compare it particularly, for those of you watching now, you can see this is his touch map. Out on the left, that is his performance against Hartford Athletic. They're going left to right in this, okay? So those cluster of touches, they're all in the opposition half. You look at the Las Vegas Lights games, that's that one on Friday, and you can see where those touches are. They're all out wide for the most part. Yeah. He's having to go out and compensate going into a wider position, and it's taking him out of those kind of half spaces that you'd expect him as a 10 to be operating in. You'd expect him as someone who, look, we haven't necessarily seen too much of it this season. We'll touch on that later in the show. We are going to talk about it. Yeah. But Federico Varela, you'd expect him to be someone who is creative, creating chances, kind of providing that little bit of a spark. And to do that, you have to be in different positions to what he was in that Las Vegas Lights game. And yet, in that Lights game, everything is wide. He's taking up that space between the halfway line and the penalty area, and between the edge of the penalty area line extended and the touch line. Mm-hmm. That's not dangerous space for someone like that.
Not at all. I mean, as a number 10, you want to essentially extend the lines of the penalty box, and you want to be within those corners of the penalty box, just extended outwards. Right. I mean, definitely got more distribution in the Hartford match, versus this last Friday night match against Lights. But, it's just something where you need to be able to put yourself in the best positions. And you even see the type of skill set player that he is when he has had his opportunities to thrive and take guys on. And, we've even said, right, it's fleeting. He's a bit streaky at times. It's when he isn't necessarily going one-on-one against a defender, right, where that typically happens when you're more on the outside, where he found himself against Lights. It really is when he's been within those half spaces, within, linking up with the number 9 or a fellow number 10, and getting in those areas. And it's just, you didn't see that much against Lights. When you put yourself in a poor position, it leads to the poor touches, it leads to the bad positioning. And it's like, this is why he is just so inconsistent, because he's not consistently getting in the right places.
Yeah. But I think that's something that you can sum up with a lot of PHNX Rising, to be honest. Sure. Again, this is big picture, maybe more than just this last game. But I think there's been a lot of kind of roaming from positions to try and make things happen on times in ways that have been counterproductive in the end. Now, I will say this. We're speaking about anything that was going wrong with that left-hand side, and the fact that ultimately, I don't think they quite had it fully... maybe they didn't have it fully planned for him. Yeah. Maybe it just wasn't being executed correctly. I don't know. I don't know the specifics on that, but I will say that we actually saw a lot of attacks go down that side, didn't we?
Quite a bit. In fact, darn near the majority of those attacks going down the left-hand side, right? Let's take a look at the passing thirds map, right? For those of you who are watching on YouTube,
it's 49% on the left-hand side.
Almost half.
Almost half of it. The remainder of that, you've got 30% going up the middle, 20% going up the other side. That's,
I mean, it's pretty much right. 49.
And maybe that's to be expected. You've got Danny Trejo over there. Maybe that is what you're expecting to do. You're going to try and play through him. You want to get him involved in the play. So, of course, you're going to look over towards that kind of a side more. But what it is doing is it's creating issues because, again, it just feels as though it was relatively ineffective over there, and I'm not sure quite what they were trying to do with it.
I mean, if you actually even look at it in a microcosm against when you compare it to the match against Orange County, right? I mean, that match, it was a lot more staggered, a bit more balanced, right? Rising, typically, they prefer to play on the outsides anyway. And you look at this match, 20% down the right-hand side. I mean, Eddie Manjoma, in our estimation, right, was coming off a man-of-the-match performance against Orange County. And then they're using his side only 20% of their attack. It just doesn't make sense. And again, they tried to find him. It's not like the chances weren't coming his way, but there is just that lack of crispness. They weren't really finding him feet. It was more so they would rather prioritize playing to Danny Trejo's feet and playing him within those prime positions, letting him take an attacker on, versus when they put it on Eddie Manjoma's side, it's, hey, we're going to lump a ball over it. Hopefully you can run onto it, maybe put a cross in, but it just wasn't that balanced strategy that we've seen from other matches.
No, it wasn't. And I think it, again, just comes down to a little bit of overthinking, what exactly we're going to do with this game. You're playing a team that yes, they've been tough to beat. However, they've also been a team that aren't winning games. And so you shouldn't be overthinking that kind of a game. It should be relatively straightforward to go out there and find a couple of goals. And yet, they couldn't. And I don't think the chance creation as a whole was there, to be honest. Yes, they hit the woodwork. But when you actually break down the numbers of the shots that they were taking, they can't keep things on target. They weren't threatening the goalkeeper. And what are you looking to do in those positions? Let's be honest.
Yeah, I mean, even one of those woodwork shots, right? I mean, that was from an absolutely just yards and yards out, and that was we were down on that end line. It was from the Vegas goalkeeper was essentially injured, not injured, whatever. He went down looking to get the referee's attention. Referee's not calling it, and then Rising puts in a shot from 30, 40 yards out, happens to hit off the woodwork as he's still on his seat.
Yeah.
Man, I think the thing that's right just is exacerbating from this team is it's something where I get it, right? We addressed it on Friday where people are clamoring for, hey, get a number 9, hey, get someone else in the half space. And I get those things would help, but I think you just see from these different attacking third maps, from where you see these touch maps, it's not these players that they don't have the players. And it's not even saying that these players who are necessarily underperforming, they don't have it within the repertoire. We're not saying that. We believe that on their day and when they can find consistency, they sure can. I think the issue is it's just incredibly inconsistent. And even if the team isn't going to have back-to-back bad results at times, or even back-to-back bad performances, as a whole, the attacking performances, there really has not been a clear line of cohesiveness from game to game to game.
I will say that this team, broadly speaking, bounces back.
They do. They don't have two, as a whole. I'm talking all phases of the match. They don't usually have two poor performances in a row. It is just, though, right, that we have not seen. It's the lack of offensive crispness. And I think that's the difference of Rising teams in the past, right, where not only are they generating exorbitantly more shots and chances, but when they do, they are a bit more clinical and a bit more creative in what they're doing because they're getting better chances based off their work rate, based off their positioning, based off their passes. Whereas this Rising team, a lot of it's really you're going to get maybe 2 to 3 clear chances a game, and that's just a matter of if you're able to finish or not.
Yeah. Is there anything else that you want to talk about this last game specifically? Because talking about this last game is going to start to get me I'm yawning here.
We're kind of already getting in that territory.
It's getting caught back up on that one. It's a bad memory,
We
I think.
are. No, I think I'm pretty good, right? I think the last thing I'll say is, right, it shows, and we said on Friday that there are performances that Rising has had this season, right? Whether it's playing a man down against San Antonio or other results where you're eking out results where the performances have not matched, but you're able to get by. And you think, okay, there's a silver lining because they're a man down or it's against a good team or whatever. You saw the same level of poor performance that you have had in other types of matches, but there were no excuses. There was no man down. You were at home. You were against the worst team in the West. It's something where the results unfortunately really match the performance.
Yeah.
That's all I got on that one. But I will say, actually, there was one other thing: is there really isn't a poor performance when it comes to our friends at Circle K. Our friends at Circle K, they are never giving out bad performances. I mean, really, it's just a straight up man of the match type contender, if you will. Circle K, they have all the best stuff, right? They have the iced coffees, good deals.
You can
Red
tell
Bulls,
how
the Monsters,
excited he's
everything
getting
like
about
that.
this and how excited he is about these products.
I mean, listen, man.
You can see it radiating.
Last
off
week, they had their fuel day where people were saving 40 cents a gallon from 4 to 7 p.m. I fueled up. Producer Sean, you fueled up?
Not only that,
Yeah.
The people over at Circle K are so kind. I was at the D-backs game on Saturday.
Yeah.
As people left, they were handing out 10-cent gas cards. You get 10 cents off gas to
They were handing out.
yes.
They were handing some out at Rising as well.
Mhm.
They were handing out these very nice. Where is it? It's tucked under here. Yeah, 10-cent gas cards there as well.
10
get
cent
one,
gas
Max?
cards on their fuel.
He doesn't have one. I don't
Yes,
think.
I do. It's in my car.
I was gonna say because I have an extra one, so you could have it.
My
but-
guy, on their fuel day, they literally were handing out packets of like, here's like a free car wash because they
crazy.
now
I've
own Clean
got
Freak.
coupons from filling up on the way to
Car-
the game.
oh,
as
they
well.
own
Clean
everything
Freak
like
now?
Oh, yeah.
Dude, they own Clean Freak.
Yeah, they own Clean Freak.
No, I got
no,
my
so
car
you get
wash.
the-
I didn't even know that. Damn.
Boom, 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 boom. Dude, it's freaking awesome. But hey, if you guys want to catch in on the action, again, if you haven't already done so, again, it's literally texting PHNX to 31310 to get buy one, get one free Polar Pops. Literally, like, it's a free text. They honestly are not the type of people to spam you either. They're good people. They're only sending out great offers, all free stuff. Gotta love it. Again, text PHNX 31310 for buy one, get one free Polar Pops. And while you're there, I'm not going to say, that you have to get Four Peaks if, want to make sure, of course, you're 21 years or older to enjoy Four Peaks. But you definitely should because we love our friends at Four Peaks. They got all the good stuff going on. They got their 4 Peaks, 4 seats promotion at the D-backs game. One lucky winner will get 4 seats to an upcoming D-backs game. You can check out to see if you want to enter in by going to @4peaksbrew on Instagram. They all have the really good types of beers. They were at our golf event, like we mentioned on Friday. They have the Tee Shot Lager that's really quite delicious. A nice green tea lager that sounds a little interesting.
The only thing
Crisp.
better than a good
Crisp.
beer is a good beer for the situation you're in, like a good baseball beer or a good golf beer. So like the green tea shot at Dobson.
It absolutely hits the spot too. Nice little neck beer too. I mean, don't get me wrong, I like cans, but every now and then I want a bottle.
You want to be able to go.
Yes, but we love our friends at Four Peaks. Check them out at 4 Peaks Brew and at 4 Peaks Pub on Instagram to keep up with everything going on. The latest and greatest from Arizona's hometown brewery. Again, you must be 21 years or older to drink Four Peaks. By the way, those of you who are going to our D-backs takeover, which is now sold out, on Saturday, it will be pre-gaming at the Four Peaks draft room. So shout out to our friends there. Producer Sean is gritting his teeth and shaking his head.
I'm so upset because I'm going out of town, and this was. I mean, we've had some great takeovers, but I mean, this is get a little batting practice, get a little the pregame, and it's the Braves. It's gonna be a good time.
It's a good time, and like as Thomas says in chat, maybe the goals are the friends we make along the way. Gotta love that. People who have been making friends along the way there's been some scuttlebutt. Dare I say scuttlebutt? On you wincing at me like scuttlebutt's some foreign word. No, is
That's got to be a very American word.
Oh my! No, I don't know.
I know scuttlebutt. I wasn't taken aback by you taking that. It's not like a word you even know, Owen.
Okay, to be
I
fair, it
don't know.
does
It's
say
a
North
very-
American.
Huh? Interesting.
Very odd word.
It's
It's
a-
one
it's-
I've heard, but
But it's
I
not- it's not-
I don't know. It's a
so
North American
alien
word.
to my
But it is a
vocabulary.
very.
that I
It's a
wouldn't-
very American.
and it's
American.
rarely used.
Yeah,
surely.
even here.
I mean, he's the kind of guy who'd use
Yes,
that. Let's be
100%.
honest.
I don't know that
right?
I've ever used
If
scuttlebutt
anyone
in
was
a
going to use
sentence.
that word, it's Max.
I'm gonna be
Simpson.
honest. I did watch a little Ted Lasso recently on some of the new episodes,
Finale tonight.
and it did come up in conversation on the episode. Anyway,
I stand by that's been mediocre this season. It's gone downhill.
It's the most mediocre season.
Wait till we're doing a G-rated
Like,
episode later.
People are talking about the
Yes.
whole,
It's revolutionary.
oh
war
my god,
for
it can't
sure.
come to an end, and I'm looking at the trajectory that it's on, and I'm thinking,
This
no,
is-
it
this
needs
is-
it needs to die before it gets a lot worse.
We're trying to bottle. We don't want to give too much because a couple of us in this room are going to be on our G-rated pod later in the week
there's still a whole
for
finale
Ted
you gotta
Lasso
get
for the season finale.
You're not advertising this, Max. Why would we want to?
No.
I'm about to say, who wants to hear your views on
'cause
television?
I'm not gonna, I'll let you guys go off. I'm not going to go off, and all I'll say is I completely agree. The trajectory was first season, heck yeah. Second, third.
It's an intercontinental ballistic missile. You need to blow it up in the air before it hits the ground and kills everybody within a 5-mile radius. You need to just. And it's pretty obvious where this is heading, what the finale tonight is going to be.
It's been pretty obvious since day one.
Yeah, but I think
Let's
after
be real.
the last episode, they made it super obvious what was going to happen.
Yeah.
But they have been very non-committal towards ending it.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
They said it was going to be only 3 seasons, but here we are.
Yeah, but they said that before they knew how big it was going to be.
Think about this. The power of the power possibly of that show is literally said Scuttlebutt, and here we are. But the Scuttlebutt, the gossip, the rumor mill, the tipsy-turvy, whirly-dirly of everything is there has been not just a little consternation, right, with, some of the players, like we mentioned, Federico Varela, some guys who have just been a little inconsistent, but the question has been asked, and we have seen a fair bit of, using it lightly, hot takes on the Facebook, for
it's not just Facebook. People are doing this on Twitter as well. It's in my Twitter replies.
For head coach Juan Guerra to not only receives, more line share of the blame, but also had some calls for Rick Schantz to be reinstated.
No.
Bring him back, baby. Bring him back.
I'm just going to leave it at no. Look, Rick did some very good things with this team over many years, okay?
Yeah.
He had several successes.
Yeah.
Those should be properly celebrated. He should be remembered for those and the way that he helped transform this team into one of the bigger clubs in USL.
Certainly.
He shouldn't come back.
No. And
he shouldn't be anywhere near this club, right? We need to be honest about this.
Yeah.
Last year was a disaster.
It was.
You don't want to see that again at all. Worth noting that Juan and Rick, at this point in the season, pretty similar kind of performance points-wise. Not far off at all. Rick was actually slightly ahead, to be fair. But while they won game number 12 under Rick, they then fell off a cliff and didn't win for quite some time thereafter.
Yeah.
The key thing we're going to know here, you've got to judge Juan after the end of roughly that kind of spell where Rick was, where things really started falling off completely. And so, yeah, I think that's important to not judge Juan too early. I also think it needs to be said that if you were to, and this is now broadly speaking, I'm not talking about bringing Rick back because it's never going to happen, okay? It's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
There's no point in coming out with these kind of things because it's not going to happen, all right? It's just not going to happen. I'm gonna say that now. For me, it's not happening.
Yeah. Not a hot take.
I think we need to be serious about how people are judging Juan at the moment. I think we need to be serious about how a particularly harsh judgment of him now impacts more broadly on the club and its reputation. It's worth noting that a lot of teams around the world, when they are quick to relieve managers of their duties, it tends to become a pattern. Mm-hmm. Now, I think that there's a difference between what we saw last year, where Rick had built this club in his image, and it was entirely his for many, many years, and witnessing what we're seeing from Juan, which is trying to reinvent this club in some ways on the field.
Yep.
Now, if you were to pull the plug, even in a couple of months' time, I think that at that point, what you're doing is sending a message. I think you're sending a message to coaches around the league that, quite frankly, you're just not going to give them time to build anything. And the issue with that is it then draws you into this incredibly short-term thinking.
Sure.
Okay? You can't develop things. You will not be able to bring in a coach who wants to create a project because they're not going to be given time to implement a project. That's the risk of going far too early on a coach who's come in and is making such a big change. Now, do I think that this team has to make the playoffs this year? Yes, 100%.
Yes.
I do not see an excuse at all. If you get to the end of the season and Rising's not in the playoffs and you want to call this season a failure, by all means. If you want to then use that to reflect on Juan Guerra's coaching position, by all means. I feel that judging him after 11 games into this season,
So early, man.
when he is relatively new in the job still, hasn't been here for a full year yet. See, and that's, Thomas, I disagree with you there with the, even if we don't qualify for the playoffs, he should stay for another season. Oh, you think he stays? Okay. I think that's slightly off. I will say this, it's not a secret that actually, if you can hear from ownership sometimes, you'll hear things, and it's playoffs isn't necessarily enough.
Yeah.
Is the goal for this year. Okay,
they don't want to just return back,
right?
And with the hopes of where they once
were.
There's a bigger playoffs
here. Missing the playoffs here, I think, is a big thing because 8 out of 12 teams make it, and I think if you're not in the 8 out of 12 teams, that's a massive.
You can't be with the bottom feeders of Vegas.
You're not
and
in the
Orange County.
You're not a bottom third team, and there's no excuse for the team to be a bottom third team, no matter what's going on, because they have backed Juan. There are players of note that have come across. Danny Trejo's not playing for peanuts. Come on.
I mean, we said during the offseason that regardless of how this team does on the pitch, that we want to see it made with Juan's fingerprints all over it, within the personnel, within how they recruit, within how they play on the pitch. And you are seeing that. And I think what we have said in previous episodes of this pod is this does take time. And yet I think it's not just the fact that's not a built-in excuse to say, hey, don't hold them accountable for the results on the field. You very much should. But I think that the bigger picture for everything, and this, I firmly stand by this, maybe this is a stylistic thing, people might disagree with me, the way that Juan is looking to have this team play football, to me, it is a more sustainable model moving forward. It is something that you are able to bring younger players in moving forward. And I think it's something that ultimately, if it succeeds in how they're looking to play, it is more attractive for new players who are looking to come in. The old system, as successful as it had been at times, of very vertical direct, of let's purely use physicality and really just kind of off to the races. It wasn't fully that, but call it what it is. There was only a limit to how far that will go before teams could adjust.
The league is maturing.
Before teams mature and they wise up to it. This type of style, and I'm not saying this is some revolutionary thing that hasn't been done before, but this type of style where it is more possession-oriented, where it does rely more on passing out of the bag, on passing between levels, it takes time to implement, but my word, the payoff, if it's realized, far greater dividends. Far greater dividends.
No, I would agree. I think, though, this is the key thing now. Looking forward, I think there's a couple of things I think that really do need rectifying, though, still. I think there needs to be serious consideration as to the creativity and the creative spark. We'll touch on at least one player who I think has disappointed us a little bit going, then they need to think about that seriously going forward. They also need to think very seriously about how they're going to adapt come the end of next month when you potentially could be without Carlos Harvey and Cav Lambert for up to 4 games.
Yeah.
And the main things I'm seeing there is a need for Juan to accept that there's a degree of a problem with those things and for the board to then give him the backing that he needs in order to resolve those problems. So it's a twofold problem there. It's not something that Juan can necessarily fix on his own at this point. He does need to do so with the backing of the board. But Juan also needs to identify that there's a problem. Emi Quajo needs to be back. I understand that. I would agree with it. I would, however, say always when you've lost someone for this length of time, be wary about what you're going to get back. You don't quite know. I do think, though, that this team, the scarier problem still remains for me, the loss of Cav Lambert and Carlos Harvey for the Gold Cup. That is a big concern for me.
You're too... I wouldn't even say arguably. I really would be remiss. Other than maybe Rocco. Your most consistent
top 3 players are Rocco, Carlos Harvey, and Cav Lambert. Yep. And if you are without 2 of those 3 players, possibly for 4 games in a row, you're going to need help. Okay? I don't feel... And look, I'm sorry. Carlos Anguiano, good enough player. I don't mind him being around this side. He's got very good technical ability. He does, however, and this is the concern, not have the physicality, I think, that is needed when you take those 2 out. If you're going to turn to a guy like him, that's going to be a bit concerning. You're losing a bit of that bite.
Sure.
You turn to Jose Andres Hernandez. We've seen him on the park anyway.
Yeah.
Again, I mean, these guys aren't bad, but it's just the caliber of the players that you're leaving.
It's a very different footprint.
Look, I hear as well what Thomas is saying. It's crazy hearing him say we're not looking for loans. I agree. Personally, I think that they should be looking for potential loan signings. CONCACAF one might be harder Because the thing is that as Rising will be suffering a little bit for that, so too are MLS teams who will lose potentially 3 to 4, possibly even more players themselves. And so those kind of depth guys who are the next guys just off the bench that you wouldn't, that may well come on loan, a guy like a Carlos Harvey, are suddenly needed on the bench because they don't have any depth themselves then when you take a lot of those international players out. But I agree. I think it's something they need to take seriously. I think they do need to look at what they are going to actually do over that spell, because that's a real concern. Now, that's the one side of things. Have you got anything else to add on this?
I guess the one thing, and I know we keep on going, kind of dancing around it, right, is we keep on wanting to say he has time. I think there have been times this season where the play and the performances have accelerated, have taken steps growing, and yet it seems like there's been a bit of, I don't want to say necessarily a stack of poor performances, but one where there's not as much progression, or at the very least, the slope of the progression, slope of the progression is not as dramatically improved. Is that cause for concern? Is this kind of just, you think, the step within the season? Because that's something to me. If we were taking results early on in the season of not good, or not as great, but at least the performances were going. Now, the last couple matches, it's kind of been, if anything, if not flat, only kind of here.
Though? You know what's interesting? If you'd have asked me this a few days ago, I'd have said that Rising in part was hampered by the injuries. I'd have said the injuries Rising has faced have been significant and it's caused problems. Then I saw some data, actually, from John Morrissey, USL Tactics on Twitter. And Rising are pretty much middle of the pack for the number of players used so far over the course of this season. So they're not the most affected by this at all. I mean, it's possible, and it's possible John's saying here, there's always a chance they may have lined up some people, with the season ending other parts of the globe, contracts ending at the same time. So not looking might be accurate. That's true. That's true. I'd be very happy to see that. I think it would be, again, it satisfies the kind of things that I was saying about how they need to, A, accept there's still some gaps there, and B, take the actual steps to address it. That's fine by me. I'm not saying these things have to be loan signings. You do whatever you want to do to get players in. But look, I wonder though, and this is the other part to it, is the model at the moment is that we know what Juan's philosophy is. Has he quite nailed down exactly how to implement it at this point? That's the other question here, I'd say. And part of that is because you see guys like Carlos Harvey all of a sudden playing further up the field. That's a change. In fact, in some ways, I'll say this, the Carlos Harvey playing further up the field, I wonder to a degree, and it's something, again, we don't hear from Juan until tomorrow morning when he's speaking at training. Is that an aim to get both Danny and... is that why we end up with the left-hand side being weird? Because he wants to have Fede out there, he wants to have Danny Trejo out there, and he wants to play Harvey in a more attack-minded role. Is that the compromise there? If it is, I'm not so sure that it's a good compromise. Carlos Harvey put in a very good shift when he was playing slightly deeper.
I agree.
I do wonder if playing him further up the pitch is necessarily the answer, if it requires that same kind of tactical switch around. But at the same time, is the actual game planning at this point complete, or does it still need tinkering? I think there's still little bits that are just off. And I'm not sure if that's the players still need more time to adjust to it, or if the plan isn't fully suited to them, doesn't quite work around them. I can't answer that one for you. Okay? But it's, I think, what we're seeing out there.
Sure.
Again, the philosophy is fine. The philosophy, the underlying principles that he abides by, the idea of wanting to implement a possession-based style is fine. There are just little bits that still need that little bit of tinkering. Little things.
Agreed.
Now, one thing that we can talk about as well, I think and one thing that we've heard a lot about, and we've spoken about it in brief at times, is the one guy we were expecting from, and we haven't seen what we were expecting from him, is Federico Varela. Yeah. Now, Fede came in to a lot of, I'd say, pressure even.
Yeah.
You look at who he'd played for in the past, we got some glimpses at him. And we saw him in preseason. You guys didn't, obviously. I got to. You saw some.
Mm-hmm.
And he looked very good. And then it went downhill. And what we've seen in the regular season is individual moments of what we were promised and long spells of the opposite. Now, when you've got a guy who, and again, look, it wasn't just his resume, it wasn't just his preseason performances. You wanted to hear how he was being bigged up more broadly by the elements of the club, okay, going into this season. Mm-hmm. This is a guy who was meant to be honest, too good for this league. He's not showing that at the moment.
Right.
And that's a problem. That is a problem. He's got talent there. There's no question at all that he's got talent there.
You see it in spurts?
I think, and we say this, we every time we get to a point where we're singling out a player for criticism, we always, before we go on air, kind of have that sit down. We're chatting out there on the recliners out there about how we're going to phrase certain things. And we always kind of end up bringing up with, okay, how are we going to make it clear that we're not talking about this guy like he's Lamin Jaune? Because that was someone last season who we looked at and said, what's he doing here? What's he doing here? Now, Federico Varela is not that guy. He is so much more talented. He is suited for this level or above, but he is not playing like that right now. He is not playing that. Thomas in the chat there. He does love that stuff.
He does.
I'll be fair. But
you're above it.
It's just been a concern. I think again, it's those moments of he'll find that beautiful chipped kind of ball forward, and you look at that and think, oh, this is it. This is Fede.
Yeah.
And then he doesn't do anything then for a while.
Yeah.
And I mean, we showed you the touch map from the last game. I think that really summarized a lot of big problems there. Just didn't work. And then I think you just look more broadly, and maybe some of it is how as well he fits into the system and how the system works as well. And then when you actually look at the chances created per 90, back is to the field. Thanks, Thomas. That's very true.
Such an underrated comment.
That's very true. I do think there's an element, though, as well, of the system is set up in such a way that it tends to create chances for wide players more than it allows wide players to create more chances, I should say. When you actually break down the chances created by per 90 numbers, you see that it's guys like Gabby, it's guys like Uzo, it's guys like Eddie Manjoman. Those are the guys that are higher up there. It's guys like Erickson Gallardo who played wide in one game we saw. And guys who are playing down the middle are lower down the order. And I think that's something we've actually said quite a bit as well, which is that the way they play tends to create chances from those wide areas or on transitional moments. What it doesn't do is allow the team to slowly build up and then create chances. You don't see Rising typically knock the ball around 10 times around the edge of the penalty area, then get a good shot off. You don't.
No.
They don't seem to have much when they get it up there. And we were saying this in preseason. We were saying in preseason that this team, broadly speaking, does well in those transitional moments if they're playing with purpose in those moments, the balls that they're playing.
Because they got the pace, they got the personnel for it.
But what they don't do is when they get it into the area, they're not going to get you the death by 1,000 cuts, kind of passing it around side to side up there. Now, is that, and this is a bigger question, is that the system?
Yeah.
Or is it the personnel? Or is it a bit of both? It's probably a bit of both.
Yeah.
There'll be elements of both in there. I mean, it's obviously going to be easier to defend a team that is going to be patient and ponderous in its play, because what you're going to do, you're going to sit back, You're going to try and take up space and take over those kind of lanes that they could use to actually try and work the ball through. You've got time to think defensively and time to organize, which you don't have in those transitional moments. But at the same time, I haven't necessarily seen anyone really show any... that's unfair. That's unfair. I was going to say that we haven't seen anyone show the kind of creative spark needed to unlock the opponent in those moments. I think that's unfair. We've seen it. We just haven't seen it frequently. There's no one that is consistently doing that. And that's partly, I think, that they're dropping back as well. Some of the forwards, they're not... But it's other reasons as well.
I think the very interesting thing about the the system and how they score goals is ironically, right, the club, like we mentioned earlier, is they've really have moved away from the old system of, route one, lump it over the top. And I'm not saying that the goals they've scored have been that way, but it's no secret. If you look at the goals throughout this season, a lot of them have been either against the run of play or quick transition or a combination of, I would say realistically, probably 5 passes or less in most situations, kind of, agnostically thinking about it, versus the slow, patient buildup of let's, have a nice 15 pass sequence around the box, try to find feed, maybe take a shot here and there. It is that they are looking to play incredibly direct, which is fascinating to me because as a whole goes against essentially the principles of Juan's system. Now, I will say that's not me saying that the two can't coexist in the same way. That's not me saying that the players aren't following that system. It's just the fact that so often you see during a Rising match, for the possession when it's 60+%, which it almost always is, and that they're kicking the ball around and they are in a way lulling the defense to sleep. And then, like we said, they have that ability to bang, we're going to spring one over the top, or we're going to hit on the counter, we're going to hit in transition. And I think when they have those moments, even if it's only once or twice a match, when those moments happen, it's very aesthetically pleasing.
It is.
It's very effective, and it's very clinical at a relatively high rate. But the very big caveat here is if they do not have that moment or they don't take that opportunity, you can more often than not bank that this team is not going to beat you, or at least not have a ton of chances by those death to 1,000 cuts playing it around the back, which is almost where Juan is trying to find. It seems like he's trying to find the balance between how do I implement and how do I let the players go on with, hey, we can have the quick attacking system, we can have the more direct style of play in moments while sticking to the core base system of we want to be a possession dominant team.
Yeah, I mean, you just look at some of the recent games, actually. Look at Orange County. How was the goal scored in that one, Max?
I mean, yeah.
Long ball
over the top from Renzo Zambrano to Arteaga with a beautiful touch.
Game. How are the goals created in that game?
Which one?
Hartford. At home.
I mean,
cross comes in for the last one. Cross comes in on the first one.
Corner comes in, takes it. With Carlos Harvey
in the final
Carlos Harvey takes it off there. One of them, right? Manuel Arteaga.
Yeah, comes from the corner. They do play it back, but then they whip a cross in.
Yeah.
I mean,
even
Jose Andres Hernandez wins it, plays it. Even
going to like the Loudon match, right? They, one of the goals, they take it off of an opposing throw-in, 3-pass sequence in the goal. There was one goal in there, which I think was a little bit of a buildup, but it's not a ton of 7, 8, 9, 10 plus passing sequences.
There's not a lot. There's not a lot that create good chances.
No.
I'm looking at a lot here that are misses as well. It's giving me some weird stuff.
I get that I get there could be an argument for personnel, especially when you make the case for Fede Varela underperforming. I believe there also is, right? Like we're kind of the bigger picture of wrapping this like convo up is like,
no, I know
it is an era where a bit of it's going off of the system, and that we clearly see this team emphasizes the wingbacks, they emphasize the outside game, they emphasize the quick attackers. And that's why the guys who are either creating or getting the lion's share of the opportunities are going to be the wingbacks, are going to be whoever the number 9 is. Danny Trejo in some ways is kind of the tweener in between, but it's not as much of that central player. And when it has been, it's less of hey, we are looking to you to finish or create this opportunity. And rather it's, hey, we're going to pass to you. But now you're looking to link it up into those players for them to move it forward. It's just a link up play.
I've also just realized I was confusing Loudon and Hartford to get the goals. It was actually the Loudon game was Hartford. Sorry, two of them were big breakaways, weren't they?
Yes.
Yeah. The Loudon game was the one which again was a lot of crossing involved or scoring relatively quickly after winning the ball.
Yeah.
This team doesn't possess the ball for long periods unless it turns into a cross.
Yeah.
They don't score off of those. They don't unlock you in those ways. That's the key thing here. So yeah, it's concerning, I think, for Phoenix Rising that you're not quite unlocking teams in that kind of way.
I think it's something where they need to play. Sometimes they need to get out of their head, I guess want to say, right? Like I get
Please tell me this isn't going to a transition.
There has to there would never. There has to be a freedom of like how you play, and I get you need to stick to the system, and that pays dividends. But you have to be a bit free flowing and really just kind of see whatever comes to you. Kind of relax a bit. And a great way to relax is with our friends at OG's Brands. I mean, man, our friends at OG's Brands, they got all the different ways to relax, to unwind, to kind of get out of that headspace, maybe find a new headspace to help yourself in, right? They have the fruits, which is the watermelon, red apple, the peach. Lovely mixed bag of fruits there in indica and sativa. They also have the creams, the blackberries and cream, the orange creamsicle, and of course, your friend of the pod, right? Sean's friend of the pod, my friend of the pod, Snoop Dogg loves the peaches and cream. Producer Sean nodding. Yes, of course, peaches and cream. They have that in the creams bag as well. And, pink lemonade. Dropping on June 21st for their summer edition. They dropped Pina Colada. I like getting caught in the rain. They did that last year, and now they're doing pink lemonade.
Are you gonna miss the launch of the new flavor?
No,
are you going to be overseas?
I'll be back.
You're going to be back
here? I texted my friends at OG's Brands and I'm like, hey, going to be gone for a little bit, but don't you worry. I will be back Wednesday, the 21st.
So you will be back on that day?
I'll be back.
Okay, so you're not going to get arrested for taking them overseas?
Well, I will not get arrested.
Good job. Well
done. For
well
going
done.
overseas.
Enjoy them here in Arizona. Don't take them overseas.
And yes, you can only enjoy them in Arizona because they're Arizona's scratch-made gummies. You can find them at your local dispensary at ogsbrands.com. That's OGEEZbrands.com. To find them at a local dispensary near you. Again, you must be 21 years or older to enjoy responsibly. Something else you got to be.
How long are you going to spend, by the way, before you leave, digging through your bag to just make sure there are no remnants of any in there?
I was actually looking.
I feel like you might do this for a while.
I was actually
because he's going to a place where they don't mess around.
I was looking at my travel bag yesterday, and I did find our friends at OG's. They when we first started the partnership, they gave us like a couple I don't know, like souvenirs, like some cup holders and stuff like that. And one of the things they gave us was like a way to, I guess, like store your like edibles or whatever, is like a little tin, right? Mm-hmm. Like a little like tin that says OG's in there. It doesn't say, they're like, there's no indication that it's like cannabis or anything like that. But I just found this in my bag. And I swear, I opened this tin like 2 or 3 times. I'm like, is there anything in here? Is there anything in here? No, there is not anything in here. But get it in you if you want some OG's brands.
You got to make sure you use them up before you leave, eh?
Of course, absolutely. You can also get in you is Valley Tap Room. Valley Tap Room, they have many different beverages, lovely things to indulge in, right? They have a slushy machine with changing, rotating flavors with wine-based liquor, if you will. They have a wine cooler.
Whoa. You never told me they had wine slushies.
Oh.
You have wine slushies?
Yes. Buddy, I have been saying.
I haven't been listening to you. I guess I'm probably like, when I tend to tune out everything you say. No, I'm kidding. But I didn't know that they had.
Like me, he tunes out when you read some of the ads.
Owen apparently just tuned me out because I said that I am like Owen and I tune you out. I'll let you get back to your ad read. I just had no idea they had wine slushies, and I love a good wine slushie.
They do. They have great wines. They have great wine slushies. They have live music every week. Seemingly a great wine cooler for over 100 different varieties. Honestly, the fridges.
It's a good place.
Valley
it's
Tap Room, really nice place. They have trivia actually that just started 20 minutes ago every Tuesday. Gotta love it. Very good time. You guys can check them out at Valley Tap Room on Instagram, and then check them out in person off the 202 in Gilbert. They got all kinds of good stuff. Again, whenever,
hopefully at some point,
any Tuesday that we're able to usually make it, we try to get out there, let y'all know.
Hopefully at some point we're gonna get you out there for an away game.
Yes,
hopefully at some point.
No, like I said, keep tuned during the summer. I do need to dial it in with our friends out there, but we will be hosting at least one away watch party, if not multiple. Nice little spot for it too.
It is. Lots to drink, including that. Well, if they've still got it. Remember, we had that Danny Trejo beer at that one point.
Machete.
Mm?
Yes. Just
in case he scores.
Just want to make
Crack one open.
Just to clarify, it's not Danny Trejo the player. It's Danny Trejo the actor.
Close enough.
Just
Close enough.
For legal sakes. But yes, check them out. Valid Tap Room. Must be 21 years or older to enjoy responsibly. But you don't have to be 21 years old to enjoy responsibly. Is the other matches going on during the USL Championship this week? Mr. Owain, in your dulcet tone, would you mind reading off a couple of the highlights?
No, I was just going to read them all off.
Oh.
So we'll start with Friday, May 26th.
Yeah.
After Athletic 1, Sacramento Republic 4.
Yeah.
Saturday, May the 27th, Detroit City FC 1, Birmingham Legion 0.
Upset.
Indy 11 0, Louisville City 1.
Barely squeaked by.
Miami FC 0, Orange County 0.
Both bad.
Tampa Bay Rowdies 2, Colorado Springs Switchbacks 1.
Yep.
LGV 0, Charleston Battery 2.
Battered.
San Antonio 2, New Mexico 1.
Those guys.
Oakland Roots 2, San Diego Loyal 0. And on Sunday, May 28th, Loudoun United 0, Pittsburgh Riverhounds 1.
Loudoun was pretty quiet.
Why is he saying these things? Right, let's talk about the Detroit City got a result against Birmingham Legion.
Yeah, that's crazy.
How concerned are you of your Birmingham Legion right now, right? They are doing great in the Open Cup, sure, good for them. And yet they have lost their last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 league matches.
I'm not
5 league matches lost in a row.
This league.
Prior to that,
This league.
they win 2 games. Yes, they beat Hartford. They beat Orange County, 2 very bad teams.
Sure.
Before that, they lose to Loudoun, and they lose to Phoenix Rising, and they lose to Tampa Bay Rowdies.
Sure.
So if you add all of that up, in their last 10 league games, they have won 2 matches.
Yeah.
They have lost 8
Not
matches
good. Not great, Kyle.
of their last 10.
Not
they have
great.
lost 8 of 10 in the league. That is atrocious.
Yeah, no.
This was a team that we thought were going to be very good. They started the season very well. And there was all the talk about how, they normally have that late bounce, but this year it seemed to be earlier than normal.
Nope.
No?
Nope. This league, this season.
Actually, hang on a minute. Sorry.
Yeah, you
they actually,
Classic, you miscalculated. Well, no,
they've won 3 of their last 10.
Classic bowling and Owain, as we say. No, it's...
But that's still bad. That's very bad.
Yes, it's still very bad. This league is drunk. Way too much 4 peaks for them. Birmingham Legion, they're incredibly topsy-turvy, right? I mean, this is kind of the... I'm not saying it's good to get bounced in the Open Cup, not by any means, but this is now what you have to deal with. You're a team who's having very difficult time finding your form in the league, and now you have to contend with Open Cup, and at this point,
it's not good on depth, and they didn't have depth. They didn't have depth.
Push it in.
We saw that when Phoenix Rising went there. They didn't have depth. Be very careful with that.
I was pushing the chips in the It's empty. It's empty.
Good.
Yeah.
All right, Max. But you've got to think about this one in terms of just. I mean, it's not good, is it? It's not good for them. No. They don't have the depth, I think, to compete in the cup and the league at the same time. Certainly. We saw they didn't have the depth. They were playing against Phoenix Rising. They weren't. I don't think they named a full bench in that game.
Oh, also it was on Easter, if I remember correctly. I think there was only 5 or 6. That was very, very light.
Yeah. So I think that's the big problem for them. But yeah, they're in a mess right now, and I would not want to be there. I mean, there's a balance, I'd say, between people say you want to succeed in the Open Cup, and I believe that is true. I believe you should want to succeed in the Open Cup. I would say that the way that they're doing it right now is definitely hampering them, and I think that it may be for the better if they lose in the next match for them.
Yeah.
And their hopes. Pittsburgh are doing it the opposite way. Pittsburgh seem to be doing fine, despite the fact that they're still going in the Open Cup. Pittsburgh haven't had that drop off.
Yeah.
So, I mean, maybe it starts this weekend. You don't look convinced. I'm not fully convinced. The chat, I'm sure, won't be fully convinced.
We've seen weirder things. We've seen
weirder things.
Much weirder things.
We saw San Antonio go to Detroit and lose. So, weirder things have happened. Detroit, they're picking it up.
Aye.
They're picking it up.
Yeah.
They beat San Antonio. They beat Birmingham Legion now.
It's true. It's true. Yes, yes, yes.
2 wins in a row. Maybe they're back. Maybe.
I don't know about that.
I wouldn't necessarily go that far either.
I'm not.
Tampa Bay Rowdies. Can we talk
about
about Tampa Bay Rowdies as the form team of the league?
Dear gosh, yeah.
And to be fair, though, so Pittsburgh,
They are
which is part of the concern.
topsy-turvy.
2 teams, very good form teams at the moment.
Go figure. They were off to a very poor start.
Yeah, Tampa was struggling. We were talking about Tampa as are they the Phoenix Rising of this year? Yeah. Clearly not. They've stepped it up. Yeah. One other game tomorrow now as well. Should point that one out. Monterey Bay playing FC Tulsa at 7. Nice bit of West Coast action.
One more time.
Monterey Bay against FC Tulsa tomorrow, 7 p.m.
Yeah. I like Monterey on that one.
Take it, Monterey. Tulsa have been interesting. They're very much they're not winning many games. They've won 2, drawn 6, lost 4. They're on 12 points. That's got them in the playoffs in the East because it's the East.
Yeah.
That would have you in 10th in the West. But I don't know. We'll see. Monterey Bay, 13 points. Not that much in it.
That's fair.
Not that much in it. We'll see.
We shall see. Well, it's gonna be a certainly week of matches, but listen, we got a big one ahead this weekend. Pittsburgh.
Talk about it on Thursday.
We talk about it on Thursday at 6 p.m.
And then I hear you're not going to be here on Saturday.
I will not be here on Saturday. I leave Friday.
Yeah.
You guys are.
You're getting a break from Adman.
No, you're not. It's like getting a break. That's not the right way to phrase it.
You're getting a break from Adman.
You're gonna miss out on it. You're sort of miss out on the opportunities.
Respites.
All right. Anyway, let's get the hell out of here. Appreciate everyone joining us. You can follow us as always on Twitter.
PHNX __rising.
Because double the underscore.
No, I'm not gonna say it after that last game.
Still okay.
Yeah,
fair. All right. Well, fair. Double the underscore.
Maybe on Thursday we'll be back to it.
Fair enough. Again, at PHNX _ rising. You can follow Owen on Twitter at OJEvans18. You can follow me on Twitter at MaxDavidSimpson. You can follow Sean, the Peacemaker to pause at Sean _
He's resurrecting an old nickname that
we were talking about before.
Ramon gave him in the past.
It's a nice nickname. Sean said that is the nicest nickname he
It is my favorite nickname I've ever gotten. Yeah. Not like I have a whole lot of them, but the other ones I have are the only other real nickname I've gotten from someone that's not my family is from Petey. He calls me DP. Yeah. Which, depending on who you ask, has different meanings. So.
Yes, it does.
All right, moving on.
Yes, it does. But yes, follow us on those different handles. And remember, everyone, beautiful game. It's beautiful, but not as beautiful as trying to find your form.
One more question.
What?
One more question. No,
I signed off with
I'm going to ruin it for you. I'm ruining your signed off. Sorry.
No.
Who are you taking in the Europa League final tomorrow?
Ooh, actually, that's a fair... What? No! We're scrolling past that last comment. No one asked this person.
Sam's saying, we all need a break from Adman.
Don't know who that it couldn't is. Some person must have found our stream. I certainly don't know her. Certainly not dating that woman. Anyway, I would say go with Roma. Jose, what the actual hell?
Hang on a minute. They can't even see it, Max.
I don't like it.
Jose, I'm
going to end this stream before he does it. Jose Mourinho.
No, you are not.
Jose Mourinho does not lose UEFA competition. Here's the thing, though. Jose Mourinho has not lost a UEFA final. Sevilla has never lost a Europa League final. One of them has to give. I'm picking Roma, which apparently is the dogs, right? Who are you picking?
Yeah, but they're marginal.
Doesn't matter.
It's like plus 175 to plus 188.
Most people that I've talked to have overwhelmingly said Sevilla.
This is good because if it's a toss-up and Max is choosing one, you are almost guaranteed to make money by betting on the other one.
That's true.
I am. So quick aside. Jacob earlier today, I asked him to give me a couple predictions for home run hitters for the D-backs. He gave me 2. Ketel Marte, Evan Longoria. They both hit home runs in the first inning of this game.
That's amazing.
So now I have a bunch of extra money.
Sean, who
I
are you
would take
taking?
all of the winnings and put it on Sevilla if he's taking Roma.
You're putting it on Sevilla?
If he's taking Roma,
He's going Sevilla. You know what I'm going to say? It's going beyond 90 minutes.
But that
is a bet.
If you're betting on BetMGM, which of course if you're betting, we're all using BetMGM, then you're going to pick the draw.
Yeah, I'll pick the draw.
Interesting. Well, join us in the Discord.
You know why? Because I think Roma will take a lead and then they'll play Jose Mourinho classic park the bus, but eventually it'll be broken through.
That's fair. I will pick Roma to ultimately win, but I would not be surprised if it goes into extra time. But I'm still picking Roma. Put the bet on it.
We'll have to see.
Put on BetMGM. Don't worry. Join us in the Discord. I'll be putting it in there. Don't worry. I'll put it on Twitter. Again, at Max David Simpson. Follow me there. And yeah, disregarding that last comment. Remember, kids,
we all need a break from Adman.
No. The beautiful.
Yeah, we all need a break.
The beautiful game is beautiful, but not as much as trying to find your form. We'll catch you on Thursday. See you then.